Well, the guys are pretty excited. I'm happy for our players and our staff. Proud of the way that, you know, not an easy week to prepare, but staff did a great job preparing for a very difficult offense. And, it's probably not the matchup you want when you're making a change defensively. This offense is difficult to prepare for. They're very similar to an option team in terms of trying to get acclimated to them. It took us a little bit to get acclimated to him. Once we did, I thought our defense did a nice job. Offensively, we made a lot of plays. I thought we, obviously did what we needed to do in terms of points. I thought, overall, there's certainly things that we can do better. But I think the big picture here is proud of the way our kids bounce back from a disappointing loss last week, go on the road, we make a change on defense, and play with great energy and enthusiasm, and come up with a win. So.
You talked about getting acclimated. In the first quarter, you gave up 223 yards. The next three quarters, you gave up 199 combined.
Yeah.
Acclimation was one part, but what was it you guys did defensively that allowed you to really keep them in check for the last three quarters?
Well, I think there's a number of things. First of all, when you're playing a team like that spreads it, and you have to get acclimated to positioning on the field, where the ball is at all times, and when it happens so quickly, you can't duplicate that in practice. Once they got that sense of receiver spreads, sets, calls, and checks, they were able to duplicate that play in and play out. I think what really was the effective part for us is that we were able to really stop them from running the football effectively and got them in some predictable down and distance situations in third down.
After Editawa had that 72-yard touchdown, it looked like you guys pretty much kept him in check. He seemed to be matched up against Dante Vaughn a lot. Was that purposeful or just kind of how the flow of the game went?
Well, we know he was going to line up to our right. We wanted Dante over there. We wanted some size, but we helped him a lot. He had help over the top. We had people underneath him. Dante did what we asked him to do. He batted a ball. He's a long, athletic kid, but we didn't leave him on an island. The one time we left him on an island, or Love was left on an island, they had the big touchdown. So we obviously got out of that coverage and started to run some more zone coverage against them.
There were times during the game where you had four freshman DBs on the field.
Yeah.
Against, like you said, a pretty complex, difficult team to defend. Overall, how would you assess?
I was pleased with all of them. They were locked in. There was mistakes made, but we had the four freshmen, and then you're playing a lot of first-time players. We played Asmar a lot. It was good to get him in the game. We played, Elijah Taylor played quite a bit. Jay Hayes played quite a bit. Dalen Hayes played quite a bit. So even in the secondary, it was linebackers, and I thought it helped us tackle better. We were fresher. Then we lose Devin Studstill to I don't know what that was. He was definitely not targeting somebody, but I don't understand the rule. I just don't understand it. So anyway, we got a lot of guys in the game.
Brian, gaudy numbers for Deshaun, but how do you evaluate how he did today?
Much better in the second half. He tried to do too much. He took us out of field goal range, and that to me was the conversation that I had with him was like, Deshaun, we need to get 3 points there. You're trying to do too much. And he has a tendency to want to do too much, put too much pressure on himself. And he's got to stop doing that. I told him, listen, you do enough. And I thought what I liked about him in the second half is that he dropped the ball down, took the easy completions, made the smart decisions, and I think he needs to continue to do that. I thought the second half showed the kind of things that I was looking for him to do, and he needs to continue to do that.
Defense, you had a lot of guys, Rochelle, Onwalu, Morgan, some of the upperclassmen making plays. How important was that, too, with all the young guys going?
Yeah, they have to do their job, too. I thought Jaron Jones and Daniel Cage and Elijah Taylor. Obviously we had Pete Mukwa ready to go, and then he hurts his ankle on, Thursday. Big Pete was going to get a chance. But all of those guys, the whole rotation of guys, all contributed. Fertitta, Nico, he wasn't getting any reps. He played a significant role in what happened out there. So it was really a good team defensive effort with a lot of guys playing.
Brian, is this something you can build on defensively, or is Syracuse so different that you'll change things? You're going to still rotate a lot of guys?
Oh yeah, we have so many young players that they can't sustain 70, 80 plays. They're going to be good for 20, 30 plays, and we need to keep rolling guys in. We got a lot of depth. Greer Martini's got to play. We got a lot of really good players that deserve to get on the field, and that's the kind of defense this is going to be. There's going to be a lot of players playing in this defense.
What's kind of the next step for this defense? What incrementally would you like to see?
Well, I think we've got to tighten up some things in terms of our, just our base coverages and fronts. We did a couple of things today that you probably saw that you probably haven't seen before. A little bit more 3-4 defense, and so just a little bit more tightening up on some things. Not a ton of calls. Some base. Cole, as you saw, was the nickel. I really like Cole Luke in the nickel. He's smart. He's savvy. We can do a lot of different things with bluffing and catting him in and out. And, he just gives us some versatility in there that I like. So there's a lot to do, but I thought it was a good start.
When did you feel that this team was going to respond after everything that went on over the weekend?
Wednesday, after the second practice. Wednesday I felt that we were going to be going in the right direction. I wasn't crazy about playing this offense. I'd much rather have been going against something a little bit different because of their tempo and how they spread you out. And with all the freshmen, DBs that you play, that's not always, the greatest matchup, But I felt like the morale was really good on Wednesday, and that's what I was looking to get back, the morale.
Brian, how do you feel like Greg Hudson handled the week, and I guess the emotion that he had after the game and the players had for him, I think sort of speaks to something for a guy the players don't really know that well until last week. Yeah,
well, they know Greg well enough that he always brings a lot of enthusiasm, positive, upbeat. I told the team in our mental edge meeting that I was certain we were going to win, and that they would pick who led them in the fight song. And to a man, they all yelled out, "Coach Hudson's going to lead us." So it was pretty cool. So he led them, and I think they just positive energy, just a lot of positive energy.
Dexter Williams sort of repaid your faith in him with that amazing touchdown run.
Yes.
What did you see from him during the week that you were confident this was going to carry over? And then, I don't know, what was your interaction with him after his injury there?
I told him he was indestructible. He's indestructible. He goes, "That's a big word, Coach. Stop using big words." I said, "You're right. I'll stop using big words." And
How's Colin McGovern?
he's battling that high ankle sprain, and he's been a warrior. It's been one of those things. Sam had it and has been fighting through it. Colin is just a tough kid. He's just fighting through an ankle right now.
Feel you're going to settle in, even though it was kind of frenetic there in the first 17 minutes. C.J. Sanders seemed from that point forward, it seemed to calm down, at least for your defense all the way through.
I felt pretty good. They had the one seam throw. We made an adjustment to get them out of the seam with a couple of good calls that I thought were very timely. Made a couple of adjustments at halftime that I thought helped us. But I felt pretty good. I thought we were in good position on the one deep ball. Love just left his feet a little too soon. I just felt like we were going to be fine, and I knew they weren't going to be able to run the football, And when you know they're going to be one-dimensional, there's a lot of things that we could show. We played a lot of two-man, which was good for us, and we were able to bluff them into some things. So I felt pretty good.
Not to say that preparing for NC State will be easy, but I mean, the second time through,
Yeah.
with everything that you got in this week, it has to be a relief for you.
It'll be easier, obviously, on them because they know that we made some substantial changes in the way we play coverage. We weren't flat foot. You know, there are no quarter beaters against us anymore. We're playing, you know, top down. So those were big changes. I mean, so they've been playing that way for 2.5 years, and to make a change and for them to follow through with it, that was my biggest concern, is that how much of that muscle memory would come back to them and revert back to doing it the way they've been taught for 2.5 years.
In terms of tackling, as the game went on, it seemed like you tackled better.
Much better, much better. We came to balance much better, and you know, again, I thought it was better. It can get better. Our emphasis on it was what I wanted, and we'll continue to work on it. We're not a finished product, but we got some kids that care about it, and we'll work on it to get better.
Brian, you talked about Kaiser trying to do a little too much. How much is that a byproduct of the fact that the defense has been having problems? Does he put that on himself?
Yeah, I mean, certainly, I think everybody feels less about the unit and more about the number 1 and 3. I think everybody feels, you know, the entire team felt 1 and 3. So they press, you know, and that's a natural thing. I told them at halftime, listen, we respect all of you. We care for all of you. You don't have to do this. You don't have to do that. You don't have to put it on your shoulders. You just have to do your job. And nobody's gonna, you know, yell and scream at you. We're all in this together. So just do your job. And I think that's what happened with Deshaun, is that he felt like, I got to go change this myself, and he doesn't have to.
Brian, did your experience at Cincinnati kind of running warp speed offense help you as a defensive coach this week in your game plan, or are they different philosophically?
No, it helps a lot, you know, being on offense and knowing, you know, what they wanted to do out of those looks definitely gives us an advantage of seeing things before they happen, and knowing the tempo. I mean, you watch the game. I mean, they go real fast. We really didn't have a problem getting lined up. I mean, I was pretty happy that our kids were in good position. We weren't running around like a fire drill out there. We probably didn't get a couple of calls here and there, but by and large, I was very pleased.
Did you guys play with the energy that you kind of wanted to see today?
Yeah, I thought so.
Passion, yeah?
Yeah, I thought so. I mean, again, I want to play better overall as a football team, and I think we can. We got some young guys that are going to make some mistakes, and we just got to make sure that those aren't catastrophic mistakes. Unfortunately, the positions in which they play, they tend to be big mistakes, but they're going to be really good players, and we're sticking with them.
Did you see something that maybe you could hit them for those big plays, particularly at the beginning? You knew that was maybe going to be a possibility?
We felt like there were some opportunities for some big plays, and we thought we missed a couple too, but we felt like there were some opportunities that we could get those shots.
Coach, you talked about some of the changes that you had to make from a technique standpoint. Is this maybe one of those unique, rare situations where maybe playing a bunch of freshmen who don't have quite the muscle memory of that technique helped you out a little bit, making that quick transition?
Yes. Yeah, it definitely helps because they're less. I guess some of the guys that were harder to train are the guys like Tranquil. You know, he's got a lot of thoughts going in his head, and you know, am I playing it the old way or the new way? And those were a lot of conversations during the week. So that was a difficult conversation at times. And that's why in some instances we moved Cole inside because nickel was new. And so we could teach it new to him inside. And with the freshmen outside, it was more of a blank slate for us.
Good.
Good.
All right. Thank you.